I don't know what to do for this week's video. Oh, how unexpected. It's a phone call. I'm gonna answer. I didn't know there's someone right. Hello? What's that? There's a game already waiting in the office for me? And you put it there because you wanted to see me talk about it? And you think that this is one of the laziest intros to a video you've ever heard, since the title of the video is right below this video, or above it depending on what YouTube does, and I've been spending all week working on the video, so it's a bit pointless pretending that I don't know what I'm doing? And I'm a pig shit sundae with cherries on top. That fucking... I don't even like you anyway, go away. Greetings and salutations, my beautiful people. Welcome to the Caddicarus show, where I always have to do the dirty salvage work right in the month of terror. And this week, since Halloween is creeping around the corner, I felt like going a little bit more mellow for a change as I sit back, totally lounge in the sofa, and don't go out of my way to scare myself shitless with a game like Spice World, and instead cover a horror-themed game that doesn't necessarily go out of its way to scare you, but instead lull you into a calming and yet brooding atmosphere with more action-oriented gameplay. I guess you could say it's kind of similar to Castlevania in the way that it does that, but in 3D, on PS1, and featuring one of the cutest decaying dead things you'll ever see. And you can't say that too often.
This here is Sir Daniel Fortescue, and before he was called out by multiple players of PlayStation All-Stars for being one of the worst characters to fight as, he was too busy swagging up the PS1 with his charming character, memorably morbid design, stupid voice because he has no jaw, and somehow being relatable and adorable despite being a rotting casket of smelly bones that can somehow walk around. And he did all of this in one of the most standout PS1 games of all time, 1998's MediEvil. It's because it's set in medieval times, and there's evil in it. So it's medieval. Puns! 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 Pans! Pans! And yeah, fair enough, when I was a kid this shit was some of the scariest nonsense I'd ever played. When I first played this on a demo disc, I had just come fresh off the heels of Klonoa, if I remember correctly. And the combination of hellish choir music, dark visuals, deeply gothic overtones, and zombies rising from their graves, walking around like that thing in Big Hero 6, and trying to kill you while groaning and swiping as fast as possible was enough to get me to not play the game for a few years after that. I wasn't ready for any of this shit, and I especially wasn't ready for the FMV. Ah! Ooh! Whoa! Man, that's scary! Oh! You look all wet! I got an idea! Let's play a game! Man or woman? Go on, take a... No, you're wrong! It's a man! Do you feel bad now? I don't like this! Mommy, where's my teddy and my bottle of milk? Anyway, let's begin the game. We get loads of atmospheric and stylish shots. It's actually very creepy, and then the menu appears featuring a...
Oh, sorry. Wait a second.
Who's there? A skeleton.
And if we wait at the menu for a while, we can actually see that hellish FMV sequence that, okay, was amazing for the time, but now just looks... moist, along with a brief backstory to the world of the game, which we later discover is actually quite deceptive. You see, Sir Dan is hailed in the land of Gallowmere as the hero that led an army, charged into the lair of Zarok, and stopped him from taking over the kingdom, leading people to write songs and stories about him for decades after his death. But once you hear this, only to see a flashback scene at level 1 showing Dan running forward, taking an arrow to his eye and then dying immediately, it's tragic, yes, but darkly hilarious. Especially as he's heralded as this hero that was so brave and bold that he deserved to have his remains on display ready for resurrection if shit ever got out of hand. Even funnier considering that all the other heroes of the past that help you on your quest all know the truth and are oh so sarcastic, angry, and bitter that they're all stuck as statues. Even the storytelling gargoyle heads know the truth so much that they demean you as much as possible by referring to you as it and talking to you like you're not even there. I guess overall, even though throughout the game you see Zarok everywhere and hear him taunt you with his silly voice, this isn't a story necessarily about saving the kingdom and its go and die in a hole inhabitants, but more proving to the world that you are the hero despite what others may think. And that's kind of smart because as the player, the game doesn't know anything about you, so it sure as hell doesn't treat you like Link from Zelda as the destined hero. You feel the brunt of everybody's criticism and jokes as much as Dan, and it helps drive you to prove everyone in the game wrong for your sake and Dan's.
And that isn't easy to do, especially considering that Dan walks around in the FMV like he just shat his bum.
on. Mechanically, this game really isn't anything that mind-blowing, with it being a standard action-adventure game with you needing to find rune keys to open other doors in order to find the exit and move on, all featuring hack-and-slash madness with the occasional light puzzle to solve. But for what it does, it's extremely varied, lengthy, and fun. The default controls aren't awful, but if you'd like to be able to efficiently hold your shield while attacking, you can tweak them in-game to suit your needs. And for slaughtering, there are a multitude of badass fantasy weaponry to kill things with, and many of them aren't just fun to use, but also have multiple mechanical uses for puzzles and combat. For instance, the club can not only fight, but also destroy boulders, crystals, and be set alight for enemies weak to fire. And other enemies are best dealt with from a distance for ranged weaponry, some bosses are best taken care of with ranged and melee weapons, and some levels may even need revisiting once you acquire these weapons, such as Cemetery Hill, where you return with the club to access the Witch's Cave, or even Dan's Crypt at the very beginning of the game to destroy a secret wall for an extra energy bottle to extend your maximum life. And of course, ranged weapons have limited ammo, and some weapons like the club don't last forever, much like your shield, meaning that you can't go crazy and make the game a joke. In each stage, you'll see that for every enemy you kill, a percentage bar goes up, and when it reaches 100%, you'll be able to pick up a hidden chalice in the stage, which upon stage completion grants you access to the Hall of Heroes, allowing you to partake in witty banter.
Daniel, man, you can't go into battle against an army of undead without a magic sword.
Fortescue, you jawless arrow magnet.
I bet money to be back pushing audacious by now.
And then get rewarded with either increased max health, money, or increasingly stronger and badass weapons. And the great thing is that it's all optional, but definitely worth it if you go out of your way. And to get the really strong weapons, you can't just pick and choose when you get a chalice for a particular area, since the rewards work by how many total chalices you get in the game itself. Even better, since you can get a few weapons which are pretty useless overall, and I never use them once, but are all just par for the course when unlocking the really good stuff later on. You just need to be patient and grab them one by one, and honestly, it makes you feel like you're getting stronger, so that's fine by me. Trust me though, for how strong enemies get in the late game, you'll be very happy you did this, since health is something that you carry on from stage to stage, and it never refills on its own. And health is a luxury whenever you see it in occasional energy vials, and even these sprinkly sparkly health pools, which do heal you, but pretty fucking slow, so the game subtly tells you with these occasional health moments and rather slow and tedious health pools that also don't last forever that you want to be as careful as possible to stop inconveniencing yourself to get healed. You can even learn new moves through the game, like the daring dash for longer jumps. The levels themselves are expansive and very explorable. You're constantly rewarded with extra cash, health, and shield repairs as you look around, and every stage is really fun to navigate from visual design alone and how fast Sir Dan runs around. Attacking and other control actions are extremely responsive, yet button mashing doesn't help all the time, since with ranged weapons you need to wait until there's a clear shot, and with melee you are still swinging a heavy metal thing, so timing is still a factor. Or you can just open these death chests here, which do well, that. Or you can just die, even though you're already dead. Yeah, along with the amazing script, voice acting, and characters, MediEvil takes regular jabs at itself over how silly it can often be, and goes all out with it. I mean, being a skeleton, you can choose to throw your own arm if you want to, and if you hold down the strong attack button, a fully charged sword swing causes his waist to spin. In an optional quest where you gather items for a witch, you can even grab the chicken drumstick weapon. Sound like a shitty joke? Well, that's what they want you to think, so that you don't ever use it, but holy shit, it's amazing! It doesn't work on every enemy, but when it does, you can turn clusters of them into roast chicken. Roast chicken. In one hit. And then you can eat them. To get health back. KFC hid this secret power in their chicken for 50 years. Has anyone ever noticed as well how fucking, I don't know, demented Dan looks? I mean, look at him when he runs towards the camera. It's, demented. And this here, boy, I don't even know what to say here. It's fucking demented. Hey look, we're playing Bob-omb Battlefield. But it's demented. God, even when he holds his club in front of him, he still doesn't look right. It's like he's carrying diarrhea-soaked underpants with a pair of tongs. Ew, 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 ew. Okay, can I just take a second to talk about these visuals? They are some of the most beautiful on PS1. It's blocky today, but who gives a fuck? It's all about that art style, and this art style is brimming with charm and detail, along with it looking like a fucking Tim Burton movie. All of the environments, all of the weather effects, the use of darkness and light, the obstacles and simple stage decoration. The way each stage looks totally different with splashes of forest, graveyards, asylums, ghost ships, caves, villages, castles, and more, despite appearing in the same gothic horror aesthetic. The demented character designs, the goopy, thick bogey blood flying everywhere. Everything here is a treat for the eyes, and it's one of my favorite PS1 games just from visuals, I can tell you. And yeah, the FMV looks moist, but it's still top-notch quality and atmospheric as fuck. And not one stage feels lazily constructed or unoriginal with enemies and obstacles, especially with the little details. There's a pub in the village that you can't go into, but you can hear the warm and cozy commotion going on inside. When falling from a tall height, Dan's spine tends to stretch out of his body, and it also does that when he materializes into the Hall of Heroes. And one of my personal favorite little details are the disembodied hands scuttling around the grass of the graveyard.
But you have to be careful or they'll scuttle into your bottom.
As for the audio, I do prefer the sequel's music, hence it appeared in my top 20 PS1 soundtracks list above this game, but that doesn't diminish the utter epicness, foreboding, gothic droning organs, and playful exuberant strings that this soundtrack is full of. And considering that no orchestra at all was used in this soundtrack and it's all just synthesized is unbelievable. Much like the visuals looking very Tim Burton, the music complements this by feeling very Danny Elfman, oftentimes feeling like Beetlejuice or Batman. And every piece feels like its own thing, not just attached to a stage, not thematically relevant, it's just amazing and feels like one huge adventurous piece cut up into different CD tracks, much like the gameplay itself. And it's brooding and spooky, yet bubbly and epic all at the same time. Just listen to some of these tracks. Sound effects are extremely fun and oftentimes completely disgusting. Voice acting is over-exaggerated, full of charm and hilarious, and despite Dan not saying much and only ever talking in mumbles because he has no job, he's such a cute and sympathetic character just because of how the heroes talk down to him, and the Gallowmere residents practically suck his dick, and he doesn't like either side of the extremes and just wants a middle ground for how to be treated. He doesn't take shit from anyone in this game, and it's funny to see such short and sharp reactions to some of the ramblings from other characters.
After you were slain, I shot Zarek's champion, Lord Kardok. A clean kill through the eye at some 1,000 yards. Not that there's anything clever about shooting someone in the eye, sir.
The great thing about MediEvil, though, is how it tries to stay away from as many boring cliches as it can while embracing and going all out with the others that make the horror genre great to begin with. And because of that, it makes it one of the most memorable adventures in a gothic, twisted fairy tale setting ever. Gallowmere itself feels unique, and it feels like tons of effort and thought went into how the world works, the history of it, and how you travel around it. The basic hacky-slashy adventure gameplay stays the same, but is always doing something slightly different with you to keep things interesting, whether it be solving riddles in a garden maze, going on a collectathon quest for a boatman who's got too much work to do collecting dead souls, to surviving an onslaught of lunatics and zombies in an endurance round asylum before you rescue the mayor at the bottom of it. And it has so many surprises up its sleeve, it's hard to count them all. In the Scarecrow Fields, for instance, it starts with a creepy FMV clip, and then immediately you're fighting farmers hiding in hay bales, then fighting ultra-powerful scarecrows that are weak to fire, so the club comes in handy as a torch, then you save a dragon trapped in a chest who then quickly kills enemies all over the place for you. Then you're running past monsters that you can never see hiding in the corn that will kill you instantly if you step in the corn for too long, and then you find a hidden cog for a harvesting machine that breaks through the wall of the barn in the middle of the level and cuts a new path towards the chalice. Then you're fighting giant ye old mech suits with imps hiding at the back of them, and then you close off by escaping through broken down and deadly harvesting equipment. For another instant, Boss 3 has an entire stage dedicated to it, the Pumpkin Serpent, and here you're running around cutting open gross little pods to make the giant pumpkin come to life that you can then kill as it gradually shrivels up and dies. And if you're smart enough to realize that killing the pumpkin removed its tentacles all over the stage, then you use that knowledge to jump down a well that you couldn't before and grab the chalice if you've killed enough enemies. That's not all though. If you found the witch talisman hidden in a cave a few levels back, you can then summon the pumpkin witch from this cauldron, who gives you a very important item for the end of the game if you beat the boss. And all of this is done without any explicit explanation to you. It all makes it feel like a true adventure, and when you come to a point where grabbing the 2 dragon gems awakens a small dragon boss fight that drops some dragon armor for you, allowing you to not only get through a gate at the end of the game but also breathe fire, and the way that you do all of this is just from how well the game designs itself and throws all these hints at you through the gameplay and characters, makes it all feel worth it.
What's this I hear about that Archcad?
Archcad? Archcad? Oh, you better watch your mouth, mister. I'm actually a respectable cad.
Oh, and I can't forget the ant caves, a stage hidden in a stage and one that you can completely miss. And here you get shrunk down to the size of an ant as you enter the most unsettling part of the game in a maze-like pitch-black ant cavern, finding amber for the witch, squashing these pulpy sacks of shit, defeating the ant queen, and rescuing little fat fairies that all sound exactly like Quick J Horsethroat.
As a reward, I can grant you passage to the Hall of Heroes. I've never been there myself, but I've heard they got a free bar.
Well, come on then, let's roll on down to the boozer and get wanking with the rest of the lads, you cad!
And in one of my favourite areas, the Sleeping Village, it begins with a warning that everyone is possessed but innocent, so you can't kill them, meaning that you run around the town like a demented madman being axed to death by little girls until you figure out that you need to find items and key runes by raiding other houses, and also stop the water supply at the back of the town to grab another rune for another door. You then find a switch to get a bus that you have to grab,
Which is not as wrong as it sounds, I promise.
after which you find a library complete with a short yet entire history of Gallowmere just there for you to read if you want to. So cool. After which you then discover the mayor removed a crucifix from the church as it hid away a safe key hiding a special artifact that these guards appearing halfway through the stage are looking to grab, and he said that he got rid of it but left a stone template for another in case any hero needed the special item. So you go to the blacksmiths, put the template on the burner and the gold bust on the template, melt it into the cast, and then get a new crucifix to put in the church to get you the key to the safe in another house that's locked up. So you climb to the roof and jump in the chimney to get to it, and don't forget that hole in the wall next to the house where the chalice is hidden. I mean, what? For a mostly straightforward and kind of linear adventure, this is one of the most awesomely conceived and open stages of the game and makes so much use of one of the smallest maps in the entire game. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the apex of combining combat and puzzle solving while throwing you into a mad rush running away from enemies that you can't kill as you panic trying to figure it all out. Another sign of the creativity is right here when you reach the Hilltop Mausoleum early into the game. After a few puzzles to solve here and there, we end up fighting the first boss. A stained glass demon? What a cool monster! And what a way to introduce you to the bosses, as it's a decent encounter with lots of moving around, shield guarding, jumping, and making use of ranged weapons. As a side note, I've always loved how the head statues in the game only move the bottom part of their jaw, and I have no idea why, but it cracks me the fuck up.
I also always found these chess pieces in the asylum grounds pretty funny because I don't even know what they're doing. I mean, what even are they? Are there people in there? All I know is that they're laughing because laughter is indeed the best medicine, isn't it?
What's also really cool is that after the first few stages, the game really opens up. You can begin tackling some stages in any order for the most part, and some areas need revisiting later with the correct items. Some parts on the map lead to dead ends but important items, and others lead to just more levels. And for linear-based stages with the same goal of finding the exit in each, it's so tightly constructed, and they're just long enough that they're interesting, yet short enough that if you go to the wrong level too early, it's no issue at all to turn back or finish the level quickly. In that sense, it's kinda like Dark Souls in a weird way, but with a stage select. Even in the gallows near the end of the game, you need the dragon armor to pass through this particular gate, and if you haven't got it yet, no biggie, just go through this early exit no more than 3 minutes into the stage and try and find it. Just make sure that you read the book explaining that though, because tutorials aren't really a thing in this game apart from the hint in Boss 1. This here is a game all about the world, keeping a heavy atmosphere in an action game, and making sure that you're deep into it and paying attention without treating you like a fucking idiot. Even better, if you're going for the chalices, it's easy to remember what levels you need to revisit for the important items, because the stages that you couldn't get the chalice in, even if you beat the stage, usually have the chalice locked in the secret area that you need to get to with the item that you need to find later on in the game. So in that sense, the chalices could be seen as a weird checkmark for your progress to getting the necessary items and figuring out where you haven't fully explored yet. And that in itself is so subtle and clever that it's never frustrating or hard to remember where to revisit later on without needing to write anything down. I will say though, the game isn't perfect, not only because I think a better quick select weapon mechanic would be insanely useful, but also because the camera is balls here. Like most early 3D games without fixed cameras, in the sense that it behaves almost like an actual cameraman that gets stuck on the walls, can't be snapped back behind you, oftentimes can spasm for no reason, and you'll see that little symbol there telling you the camera is stuck more times than you see your own health bar. This wouldn't be too bad, as many areas in the game are open enough where this isn't an issue, but in stages where there are claustrophobic rooms or caves where it's easy to get lost, but you can't orient yourself correctly because you're either running towards or away from the camera with no simple way to change it is, well, demented. Let me just rant for a second. The pools of the ancient dead and the lake are my least favorite stages in the whole game. Not because they're bad, but just so aggravatingly frustrating. In the pools, you can lose an entire life bar and need a life bottle revival, your reserve max health as it were, every time you even stick your little toe into the mud, making you wish this little piggy learnt to swim, you fat piggy fuck. And the platforms on both of these stages are so thin that you'll drop into the mud no matter how carefully you walk around. Fucking bullshit. Wangstain! Balls! Oh, damn it, I was just about to get the knight. Okay, yeah, here we go again. Die, revive me with the potion. Oh, that's fair. Ah, treasure chest, just what I need at this hard part of the game. Oh, fuck off, I can't even get a treasure chest without dying. In the lake, the same problems are there, but it also has stupidly strong enemies that, unless you have the chicken drumsticks from the Ant Caves mission to make it pathetically easy, are close to impossible to avoid attacks with, kill, and do all of this without falling into the water. Oh, and if you knock these enemies into the water, they can swim, so they'll just come right back out and usually end up behind you. Jesus! The only saving grace here, I guess, is that this area must have been an inspiration for the flooded city of New Londo ruins in Dark Souls. Look at it, it must have been. Then the game closes off to a very cool stage in a time machine with floating clocks up until Zarok's lair. I gotta be honest, if I can complain about anything else, it's this ending portion. It's basically a 3-stage boss fight. The first fight is actually one where you use some good lightning that you find in a chest behind you before you start the boss level off to use your own health to power a load of other skeletons to very slowly fight Zarok's masterful warriors. I mean, it's stressful, I guess, but it's not that interesting, and it is kinda cryptic for everything else the game's done. It's a complete change of mechanics. Stage 2 is against Zarok's greatest champion on a motherfucking horse! And it's not like any other boss before it. He's aggressive, but pretty easy overall. But by far, the whole journey you've been on is entirely worth it to see Zarok react to his closest friend and decades-old right-hand man dying in front of his eyes.
Bugger.
10 out of 10. Best bit of the game so far. Okay, one more time.
Bugger.
He then runs off and comes back after turning into this thing.
What is that?
Okay, if they were going for an epic finale duel, this is not it. I mean, he moves extremely fast and can take away half your health with one hit, but as long as you keep moving, you're golden. Furthermore, he looks like a fucking xylophone. And since I'm a good little boy, I got all the chalices and got the good ending. Nothing amazing, but still very sweet to see Dan finally get accepted. And there's even a cute joke about him drinking wine, but he can't because he's a bone. And as he sets himself to rest with the kingdom saved, his eye disappears into his head. Ooh, gross. What the fuck? Why? How? Where does it go?
So I think it's safe to say that despite the camera and the ending portions of the game being an issue, overall it's still amazing, and this game gets salvaged today. Good as well because I got about 6 hours worth of pure gameplay from this game. Like, no, without the cutscenes and the FMV, 6 hours of nothing but gameplay, no pause times, no load times, just playing the game. And for PS1, it's pretty fucking amazing. And as always, if it's your birthday today or watching this video, happy frickin' birthday to you. And please remember to stay beautiful.
Bugger.
Hey everybody, and thanks so much for watching this video. But before the outtakes come on for you all today, and before next Sunday, when I tackle some of the scariest games I've ever played, if you're still in the mood for getting your teeth into something a little bit spooky, then go into the description to the sponsors for today's video, audible.com/caddy, where you can grab yourself a 30-day trial of the service complete with any single audiobook of your choosing for free, and you get to browse through the world's leading selection of audiobooks about everything from comedy and fantasy to even erotica, ready to download to your PC and even through the app to your phone. Being the holiday that it is, my recommendation today is The Exorcist, read by the original author of the book the classic film was based on, William Peter Blatty. Highly recommend it because he does some creepy damn narration and it's so perfect. So thank you so much for listening everybody, please stay tuned for next Sunday's Halloween video, and until then, here are some outtakes for you. See you later everybody.
Subscribe. Stop! Stan! Stanley! Stop! Stop! I just watched! Stan! I just watched! Oh.
We're not talking about William Peter Blatty anymore. Carrie's painted this.
Hey!
You painted this, it's
I
amazing. We need to do an old world one, I think, next.
Oh, I'm working on that.
Oh, sorry, you need to, not we. Sorry, you.
Yeah, you had no input
I
on
had
this
no input whatsoever.
Ah! Get off! Stan! Stop! Get off!